Welcome to the Microsoft 365 Business Boost Show. There is a big thing happening right now in the world that we play in here. Obviously, the name of the show is Microsoft 365 Business Boost Show. And right now, we have Microsoft's biggest event of the year going on, Microsoft Ignite. Let's talk about Ignite. What's your reaction to Microsoft Ignite here in 2025? What you got? Any thoughts on Microsoft Ignite?
I think, Thurman, that we are going through a bit of a change in terms of the communication about everything that's Copilot and AI and agents and all these other buzz terms that we've heard about for a while now. Last year, 2024, was the big everything's going to be agents release. Suddenly things turned around and we started talking about agents a lot. This year, I think, was, there were lots of exciting announcements, but it was a year, in my opinion, for changing the messaging and for adding a bit more humility to this whole narrative around AI and really focusing in on what the value is to people and to organizations versus just focusing on driving the technology forward. Now, there was a lot of technology, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's a technology event, right? But just in terms of the framing of things, the talking about things, the admitting the weaknesses in what's happened so far in the whole rolling out AI for many organizations. We've seen reports out there that say that a high number of AI-based tests that happen in terms of people trying out things within their organization fail. So we've seen all of that over the course of the last year, and there was a decent amount of acknowledgement of that at the event, in my opinion.
Yeah, that might be the undercurrent of everyone talking about this AI bubble. That might be contributing to it, where they're like, this thing's gonna burst here soon, and everybody's moving at the speed of light, and it's not even like what we. It's not even like what we want. You know what I mean? Like people are looking for something else. I think that there's a big W that you could get right now, even if your company is not thinking about AI. And I don't mean like it should stay that way, but I mean like if your company has not embraced AI yet, maybe you're waiting for a consultant to come and give you an initial overview, Nick DeCourcy, you know what I'm saying? And maybe you're just still operating the way you've always operated because what's important to you is, streamline your processes, all this other stuff, making sure your operations are good to go, teamwork, all this other, the important things that will never go away. Microsoft, I think I agree with that. It's almost like, which humbling. It's almost like they have to acknowledge that because it's not just them. It's the entire industry of AI. You know what I'm saying? Like people are feeling a certain way about it, so they have to come to the table in a certain, with a little bit of humility. I agree with that. I don't know. I'm still looking for it to translate to the enterprise. So I'm a little bit more, dragging my feet, but I can see that. I get the whole humility thing, but I'm wondering what else is what's at the forefront for them. They're talking about AI a lot. Do you have any idea what might be like the second thing? Like if this was a race and AI is number one, what's the distant number two? Do you know what that is? Or can take a guess?
Well, I think AI is just building on everything that we've had before, right? Like you talk about an AI bubble. Don't forget that Microsoft is one of a handful of companies that are involved in all this stuff that rode out the last technology bubble. They were there talking about the web prior to the dot-com bubble bursting, and they were still there with technology that helped us to get to where we are now. So this is a company that has been involved in the things that were the last bubble, took care of what was going on through that period, developed the technology, kept on going, and now we are here where we are today. Now there were lots of businesses that were around back in the early 2000s, late 90s, that were involved in that we don't see anymore. So I think that's an important thing to remember, that there's that history there, and all of this stuff is additive. No one is saying, go and throw out everything that you've had before and just move over entirely to AI. I don't think that's the messaging for anyone. Look at products that have been announced this week, like there's going to be an agent-focused version of Windows 365, for example. That agent-focused version of Windows 365 is about creating a safe sandbox environment where agents can go in and do what they need to do in an operating system. And we have visibility as humans. We understand the context of seeing what they're doing in the operating system, and we can understand and control. We have observability both on an organizational level in terms of managing that cloud device, but also in terms of an individual user level of seeing what that agent is doing on your behalf. There was the announcement of something called Project Opal, which is bringing that framework into Microsoft 365. So what Project Opal is going to do is give you essentially the same thing as agent mode in ChatGPT, where you can go off and you can get the AI to use a computer on your behalf. But because that's happening on an understood operating system, on a cloud instance of that, you're able to jump in and see what it's actually doing. There's a lot more collaboration and understanding that can potentially happen between the average user and that AI assistant than when you just see these thousands of lines of Python code that are appearing on your screen when you go in and ask ChatGPT or Copilot or whichever it is to go and analyze some data for you. So I think that the question is maybe the wrong question in a way of what is number two. Well, everything that we've had before is the foundation that we're building on. How I got to where I am by standing on the shoulders of giants, that kind of philosophy. Like, we have Windows, we have Entra, we have Purview, we have all of these different control mechanisms, we have these tools that we know how to use, and agents and AI are sitting on top of that. It's not something that's going to be entirely different.
Well, let me go back real quick. Let's talk about that. You said Windows focused agent. Is that what you said? Windows?
Yeah, so the idea is that, and this comes through a new announcement, Agent 365.
Okay, right.
We've had this whole kind of explosion of agents. So one of the questions has been, how the heck do we manage all of this stuff, right? We're creating an agent here, an agent there. You can do it in Copilot Studio. You can do it in Agent Builder or Copilot Studio Lite. All of those good things that we've talked about on the show. We had Abram come on here a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about all this, all that stuff. But how do you manage it? How do you keep control over it? And the philosophy that kind of we've been moving towards, we've known about this for a little while, but now we have a view as to what this is actually going to look like, is that we could treat these agents in the same way that we treat users. Like a user needs to have access to things, so we give them access. We need to know what they're using. We need to be able to audit what they're doing. If they need a particular device, then we need to make sure that's a managed device that we can control and we know how it's doing. We know it's secure, etc., etc. So all of that idea that we've got of how do we manage users in our environment, Microsoft is taking that and porting that over to agents through Agent 365. And so, again, it's building on what we already know. There's obviously some new tooling there, there's new constructs there, but at a foundational level, someone who understands how to manage human users within an organization in Microsoft 365 can now understand the approaches that we might take to manage agentic users as well.
Well, which would be strictly technological, right? Like you would just be wondering, it's almost like, stop me if I'm wrong, managing groups. Let's say I have people and I have all my HR folks. Maybe I create a group where I keep all my HR folks. This is the same logical concept that I have to think about when I think about agents. Like maybe I have my HR agents and they're however I'm managing them, which is another concept that's kind of foreign to me. Because when you say manage them, I'm like, okay, well, I know that I could group them off and say, here are all of my HR agents, but what does it mean to manage them? Is it like, somebody needs to borrow one of the agents? Do I have to grant them access? Does one person manage all the agents? Does one person manage a agent? Does the person who run the department, do they manage all of the agents and the permissions to the agents or whatever? You know what I'm saying? Like, what does now being able to manage agents mean for me? The guy who's running the maybe I have a few tire shops across Virginia. I don't know, whatever. I own a few tire shops across Virginia. You're telling me now that I can manage agents? I'm like, well, first tell me what I have access to agents. Well, what can I do with these agents right now as I run my business? You know what I'm saying? I feel like a lot of people are there.
Well, I think that's an important point, but there's different strands to this. Like there have to
Mm-hmm.
be technology solutions. Like if you might have your tire shops and you might do everything on paper. In that
Mm-hmm.
case, if you do everything on paper, then how you manage Microsoft 365 is utterly irrelevant to your operation. You might do
But
everything in
but
Google Workspace, in which case the same is true.
well, I was gonna
Or
say, what if you like a lot of tire shops? Let's say that someone comes into the office and they start wanting something, like maybe they need you to take a look at their tire. They come in, they
mm,
say I'm flat, and then
yeah,
the first thing you do is you check the inventory. You definitely know that's not on paper. They're going into a computer and they're checking the inventory to see, do they have the tire that I need for my van. So that's probably the first interaction with technology that they have when, and that's where I can meet them. You know what I'm saying? To
mm,
take that next step. So let's say that the tire shop does that. They're checking inventory for the tire.
okay. So yeah, I mean, can you apply an agent to doing that? Sure. I mean, could it make sense to have a chat interface where you ask um, for that product, or maybe you scan some identifier on the product that you're looking at, and it goes off and checks. So yeah, from a technology perspective, yeah, but you also want to
Okay.
know that that agent has access to the right data. You also want to know that that agent isn't accessing something that it shouldn't be accessing. You also want to have observability into, okay, it seems to work most of the time, but actually what's hidden is that 20% of the time it's making errors, or it's there's an error happening in the data it's getting. So there's this whole layer of, okay, you've got these things working within your organization, but how are they working holistically to the benefit of your organization? How are you checking all of
Mhm.
those other boxes? And that's where tooling to manage them comes in. Now, obviously, you have to have a purpose for them as well, right? So, IT isn't necessarily going to be the place where the purpose of all of your work gets originated. So if you
Mhm.
think of the way that you would approach, say, developing a marketing campaign, for example, with your
Mhm.
human workers, it's not going to be your IT department that says this is how we're going to do marketing, right?
Right.
There's different expertise that's involved there. So in terms of how is the agent going to go about getting from A to B to C in terms of those processes, that's outside of the IT domain. Like in terms of the technical of how do they go about doing it, sure. But in terms of the what, or terms of the why, or in terms of that actual process, it's the ideal process to get to the end result you want, that needs to be influenced somewhere else. And so there's different places where
Mm.
different aspects of your agentic workforce will be managed, in the same way that there's different places where different aspects of your human workforce will be managed.
Let's say maybe the person who owns the name franchises out these mechanic shops, these tire shops,
Mm.
and maybe they say, and again, I'm trying to wrap my head around managing. So maybe they say, hey, if you own a franchise, I'm gonna throw in an agent for you to use,
Mhm.
because that just makes our makes our day easier. It's just faster. You pay an extra fee and you get an agent, but you're going to be on the hook for managing it. That could be, you all those things you just listed, Nick. Then that person has to be on, has to, I guess, periodically do some kind of check for that. So hey, does this thing have access to the things it's supposed to? How accurate is this thing over time? Whatever. So because it's my business, I can decide if my franchisees, if they will take on that responsibility, or if me as the owner saying, hey, I don't know, these franchise folks, they come and go. I see the turnover is, I don't know, 3 to 5 years, and then they might leave. So maybe I want to keep control of these agents, and I have the ability to do that. I train it on the information it's supposed to know. I assign it to the franchisee, but I'm in control of it. All the franchisee does is interact with it like a person.
I think there's a level of complexity there that's probably beyond what most organisations thinking about this are
Mm.
going down that path. I mean, you're kind of thinking about publishing something that's then going to be available to a select group of people that are outside of
Mm-hmm.
your organisation but not publicly accessible. Obviously, there's foundations there that you would need to get in place that sit outside of the world of agents. Like, are you extending your tenant to all of these other organizations? Probably not. So are you setting up kind of trust relationships there? Are you giving them access to other resources? Are you using like shared channels in Teams or things like that so that you're able to
Mm.
communicate? Like, what is the model that you're actually using? Is it more of a kind of B2B with the businesses, or is it almost more like a B2C where the people who are working in those businesses almost become your customer for the information that you're giving them? I
Mm.
think there's some decisions that you would need to make that would sit 100% outside of the realm of a solution that's specific to agents. That's just going to come down to a solution that's like, how do you make Microsoft 365 work for this need? Maybe it's not Microsoft 365. Maybe you need to build something custom. Maybe you're going to have an app that maybe you publish that someone can add into Teams, and part of that is going to be an agent, but there might be other layers to it as well. There might be other screens and tables and the ability to export information or bring in information from your organization. All of those things that would have been the case and have been the case that we've built on continue to be the case in the world of agents. But you might look at your particular task, and there's a lot of tasks out there that kind of fall into this category where you say, hey, there's a lot of busy work here that perhaps we could get rid of with an agent. Or there's a time constraint here where we only have people available 9 to 5, and actually we have some of our customers or some of our franchisees, for your example, need to be able to be in contact with us at 11 o'clock at night. Is there an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity there to turn some of this over to an agent and have the ability to deal with some of that stuff, the low level stuff, out of hours? So there's all those different needs that you might have, whether it's about the way that you access data, the audience that you're talking to, the time that you're talking to them, the mundanity of the tasks that people are actually doing, that will go into, is the right answer an agent? And if the right answer is an agent, then within the context of Microsoft 365, we now have this framework for how we're going to manage them, which we didn't have before. But that set of conversations that you're going to have prior to that, or
Right.
even
Right.
alongside it, is going to be exactly the same thing that you had before. And the likelihood that you're going to kind of, as a franchise owner, wake up one morning and say, the one thing that we want to do is publish an agent that all of our franchisees are suddenly going to be using, and there's no kind of infrastructure that you've put in place or want to have in place before that, I would say is probably fairly low.
Okay. All right. Now I'm tracking. Now you as usual, what I'm saying, you speaking my language here, because I'm always like, technology second, process first, people first, streamlining your operations, looking at that. So if I'm thinking maybe Same example. I got my tie shops, and I look at AI as like I think it's really good at creative thinking. You know what I'm saying? So if I put a database in front of somebody that they can search, and this person just goes there and they're looking for a certain type of tire, if they type it in and they find results,
Hmm.
and then they look through those results and they say, hey, here's the different prices to the customer, the franchisee or the person who works at the franchisee, the franchise, looking through the data set, tells the customer, I got 3 different tires here at this price. I don't think AI needs to involve itself with that at all. It's a straightforward thing. You type in the name of the tire, you see the results come up, and then you tell the person, here's what's available. Maybe I'm not thinking, creatively enough, but that's how I see that. Thinking creative now is like, maybe you're strategically thinking about where the business needs to go in the next 3 months, the next quarter. Because when you look over the last 3 quarters, you see you're selling more than this, you're selling less of these, whatever. Now you go to the data set and you say, listen, we've been doing this for the last all year. You know what I'm saying? What type of deals or what type of, like you said, marketing plans can we put together for certain products for this time of the year? You know what I'm saying? Our shop is based in Minnesota. We get a whole bunch of this type of weather. We have this as much as the population. We've seen that we have more men coming in the store than women to come do whatever. Like, what promotions do you think we can run? I think that is more useful because the first example that I gave, the world is used to that. We can go on the internet, type in a thing, and look through results and give answers or find what we're looking for. If you now, it takes a little extra skill to think about something like a marketing plan. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking, can my agents do that? Like, should I think in that way? Because now I need that. Me personally, this is Thurman talking. I look at AI to do creative things. So now, if you could think about a creative marketing plan that we could put together for the next 3 months, for the next quarter to finish out strong, I'd love to put something like that in my hands as the person who runs these shops, or in my franchisees' hands, so that they could do good for their shop as well too. And that to me is, one of the ways to think about using AI. And then like, you, to your point, then after we've figured out that we need to have a marketing plan and we want to, knock it out of the park third quarter and whatever, that's when you now start to layer technology on top of that. You know what I mean? Which is, again, you start to, brainstorm with AI. Maybe AI comes up with your flyers. Maybe your agent, keeps this information for next year when you try to do some comparison, whatever. I don't know. But to your point, I think this is the point you was making. That's not going to change. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're still going to need to create these marketing plans. You're still going to need to, uh, think about, how you're going to run this business, what's important to your business, and then you layer the AI on top. Like, help me do this thing better, or what's a those monotonous tasks.
Hmm.
How can we plug in AI to get rid of that so I can free the person up to do, more important things, more strategic things? I don't know. My brain is racing here, but that's
Yeah,
the way I see it.
I think it's kind of all of the above, Thurman. To be honest with you, like the value you're going to get comes from getting the muscle memory almost of using the AI, and I think that the focus in your mind is, well, what can I build that's kind of an AI focused solution? And the reality is that for most users, you don't need to start off building anything. Just open
Mm-hmm.
Copilot and start using Copilot and see the features that you've got there. You've
Mm-hmm.
got the ability to help you manage your inbox. We just learned at Ignite that Copilot chat users, so those users that don't have a full Microsoft 365 Copilot license, will soon be able to have Copilot reason over all of the data in their inbox and help them with that information. So that's new. That's something completely new they've not been able to do before. Previously, it's been kind of email by email. We've just learned at Ignite that those Copilot chat users, again, the people without a Microsoft 365 Copilot full license, are going to get access to agents for Word, for Excel, and for PowerPoint. So you're going to have agentic help there, a greater level of AI-based help for creating assets in those programs. And so the AI isn't just about creating new things that are going to help us to do things that were very difficult to do or impossible to do previously. It's about
Mm-hmm.
helping us be able to do the things that we've already been doing in a more efficient, effective, creative way, to be able to get rid of the stuff that we don't really want to do around some of those tasks and focus on the things where we deliver most value. And those people who are trying to use these tools, and if you've got Copilot, and that's a good tool to be using, but you might be using ChatGPT, you might be using Claude, you might be using something else. Gemini 3 just came out this week, so if you're in the Google space, you're using Google, you've got a much better model over there as well. But the muscle memory that you get from trying these things out and using these things and working out how it's going to save you some time here and save you some time there is of great benefit. And then what we're seeing from an IT perspective is, well, once people have started learning how to use Copilot, and then they move into the idea of, okay, well, maybe I need an agent to help me do this particular task, or I need, a scheduled prompt that's going to help me with something I'm doing every single day, or maybe I'm going down that journey of integrating AI a bit better into what I'm doing. Then on the IT side, we've got these management tools that are going to help us to understand that, to be able to manage it better, to be able to evidence the fact that it's safe, and be able to observe what it's doing so we understand the contribution that those AI tools are having in our organization, in exactly the same way we would want to understand the way that our human users are interacting with our resources as well. So that's kind of the picture. And if you choose to take that extra step of, I want to be building stuff in Copilot Studio, or whatever you're doing in terms of using AI in that kind of elevated way, the value you get from Copilot is going to be exactly the same. And that's probably the best starting point for most people.
All right, yeah, I'm tracking. I could roll with that, Nick. You know what I'm saying? That makes sense. I real quick, I do want to go back to your Outlook. The thing you mentioned about Outlook. I so I'm a very basic email user. I want to see email, read it, and return. I'm not somebody who is like an executive admin who might be in email all day, fielding tons of emails, maybe managing other people's inboxes, managing calendars, all that type of stuff. I think it's important to know. I think we mentioned this before, but I want to drive this home. It sounds cool what you're talking about that you could do with Outlook, but I am not a heavy Outlook user. I just get my email and go. You know what I'm saying? And so it's very. I think in a lot of other spaces, people do this thing where, hey, that sounds cool, so I'm in. I want to try it. Meanwhile, you don't even have the basic need for this thing. In other words, my basic needs are met because I can read and send email. I can look at my calendar. I'm good. The basic needs that AI might bring into the picture, what? Some help me rewrite some emails. That's pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? Some basic stuff the AI can do. But the power of what you can do when you are, again, managing multiple calendars, you're fielding tons of emails, you're managing multiple inboxes, you got a lot of projects going on or whatever, a lot of efforts that you're chasing, like all of that stuff. Outlook combined with AI and agentic features and all that stuff, that might be for you. But because something sounds cool, if you're not even in that arena or doing that thing, you should just hear it and then be like, okay, cool. Like, don't waste your time trying to use technology to do something that you don't already do. Kind of like the point you were already making, Nick. In other words, I could have heard the thing you said about Outlook and be like, ooh, I want to do that. Meanwhile, I barely use my inbox except for the basics. You know what I'm saying? So the same thing with Matter of fact, this whole topic of being able to manage agents, cool thing, but it lands on deaf ears for certain people because they're not even there yet. It'd be great if you could just enter the agentic world and start seeing that stuff, so that then when you hear things like, the management of agents, it's now clicking, like it makes a little bit more sense. So I think we've always said this on this show, that the best thing you can do, and you just repeated it, is just get in there, start using it, and get used to these things. You know what I'm saying? So that you can, you'll slowly get there. But those little baby steps that you're taking, they're big steps compared to where other people are with a lot of this stuff. But we know a lot of people who they get
There's a
hundreds of
lot of
emails
people
a
who
day.
spend a lot of time in Outlook, and
Yes.
there's a lot of evidence that points to the fact that people get distracted by, the things keep popping up, coming in. They feel like they have to deal with it right there and then, or else they're going to forget it. And
Hmm.
keeping on top of that is a difficulty that a lot of users, not all users, but a lot of users do experience. And so a
Hmm.
lot of these tools are about addressing some of those pain points that people have. How do
Right.
we make modern work, and when I say modern work, I don't just mean the tools that people are using, but the experience that we have of work more palatable for everyone. I remember when I started work, it wasn't that long ago now, but I mean, I guess it's a decent amount of time that's passed. But when my first
It's
job,
enough time has passed for you to say something like, I remember when I
yeah,
started working.
exactly. Back in my day, but yeah, but I
Oh
remember
man.
the first job I had. One of the things, one of the tasks that I had to do involved corresponding on contracts, and we would
Mhm.
literally put paper in an envelope and send it to people. Right? I
Mm.
haven't. I don't think I've put paper in an envelope for probably 5 or 10 years at this point. Like that's not something that we do. But the fact that you can send something out in DocuSign or SharePoint
Mhm.
e-signature, and someone can
Mhm.
get back to you 20 minutes later and want an update, and you can do like 5 iterations on what that's going to be within a business day. That's a pressure that didn't exist 20 years ago when we were sending out an envelope with a contract in it, and then you'd get one back where someone had kind of scrawled in a red pen on it, and then you'd make a change a couple of days later. And
Right.
that acceleration of work has happened very quickly. And that's had some really, really positive benefits for a lot of us, but it's also had some negatives for many of us as well.
Mhm.
And I think in small part what these AI tools do, the additional help that you can get somewhere like Outlook or in Teams or with editing documents with the word agent, is to rebalance some of that and give us help where we need it so that modern work is more comfortable and more palatable for a lot of us. And I think that should be our focus. Sure, you might not use Outlook a lot. Don't use Copilot in Outlook, but maybe you use Excel quite a lot. I know you don't, but I just want to throw that in there.
There's a lot of people who use Excel a
Yeah,
lot.
so
I
so
get it.
you'll be using the Excel agent, or a lot of these different features and thinking about. It's not that you have to collect them all and be an expert on all of them and make use of all of them, but also it's important that you know they're there. And if you're stressed, or you feel like you're kind of drowning under your workload, or you just can't stand another ping to come through on your phone and you don't know what to do about it, these are options that are there. They're part of what you're already buying, or they're part of what your company has built for you. And they're tools that you can put into effect to have an impact on that. And I think that's
Right.
the human side of this that we have to remember. We're all just trying to keep our head above the water to a certain extent, right? We're all got a lot of stuff going on. So any help that we can get to do that, I think is great.
Right. Yeah, yeah. I totally agree. And I'm doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm making sure I keep my eyes on things that are happening. I have a basic knowledge of all that stuff, but really, SharePoint is where my knowledge, that's where I deep dive. So same for, the listeners. If you have a basic understanding of a lot of things, you might find that one thing that you like. Take that deep dive because your skills will definitely become useful in the future because everybody's going to be using AI. Again, it's going to touch every single industry the same way finance does. Finance touches every single industry. So same thing with AI. Nick, before we get out of here, first of all, it's a great conversation. Before we leave, there are people who are listening that would like to know what you have going on. Why don't you, appease these folks and tell them what you got going on there, Nick?
Well, if you want to find out more about what I do and what I think about all this stuff, then go check out LinkedIn, because I post there every day, as I say, because
Nice.
Thurman told me I had to. I kept doing it. So,
You do.
yeah, there'll be update there on everything. So, yeah, just keep looking there, and obviously subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel.
Good
How
deal.
about you, Thurman?
I actually, you know what? So I have, I might be doing a training on Black Friday. This is for all of my nerds out there that like to work even though we don't have to. I will be taking Thanksgiving off, you know what I'm saying? But the next day, when people are probably going to be out, doing whatever they do on Black Friday morning, I don't even know if Black Friday with the sales is still a thing, but I will be online. I'm planning on it. It depends on how many people, show interest. Planning on having a training to teach you how to get rid of your spreadsheets by using SharePoint. So I, like Nick, will be posting about that on LinkedIn. So if you're interested, just follow me on LinkedIn. The link will be in the description. And yeah, make sure you subscribe because we got a lot of cool guests coming up. So keep your eye on that and tell a friend to tell a friend about the show. Nick, that's it. That's all I got. I think I'm gonna check out here and then catch you in another 2 weeks.
All right, see you, Thurman. Take care.